Power is defined as ability or strength. Abilities are good unless they are misused. Strength is positive unless it becomes force. Power that gets ugly must be stopped. To reclaim it, we need to start over. To be truly powerful, we must redefine power.
In this world, power rules. By sheer force, it runs through the building and tears it down. Power is almost negative. It almost always corrupts, and it almost always is dangerous. In prison, this is especially true. You are subject to the most powerful person in the room. When I was there, that person was me. Even as a kid, I was always a leader on the streets. Some admired me, some were afraid of me, some could just tell I was smart and could make things happen. I surrounded myself with vicious, ruthless people who would do whatever I said. I ruled by intimidation and a false sense of safety. Most people just want to feel safe. Now, when you're in a position of power, that's how you keep it. People have to believe you can keep them safe. But people generally don't like power in others. That's why we declaw and defang lions. Eventually, those in power expose a weakness and lose their fangs. I lost my power that way. I had the ability to stop something and I didn't. I exposed a weakness. Now, I could have gotten it back the same way I'd gotten it, but in the meantime, something changed in me. I realized something about power. God has all the power in the world, but He never uses it in your life unless you ask Him. God can take over your life anytime, but He won't. He can show up in the sky and take everything, but He won't. That's real power. That's good power. So you say to Him, take over my life, and you let Him give you the power that He wants you to have. God gives me power to speak words of hope into a person's life. He gives me the power to influence positive change. The power God gives me is the only power worth having.
What are you going to allow to empower you today? Is it going to be the anger? Is it going to be the resentment? Is it going to be the abuse? Is that going to be the structure of your power?
Or are you going to redefine it?
When you are in a healthy environment that is full of love and peace and joy, the power that you receive from that, you can conquer anything in the world. We all want power, and we all want the love, the power of love to be in our lives. And so we can't get around it, but you have to, once again, come into a place where you are being very particular about what's in your environment, so that you know that the power that you're walking in is the power that you should be.
So how do we make sure it is what it should be? How do we begin to see it as beautiful? Number 1, recall your first encounter with power. When we are young, we don't really think about power until we feel powerless.
It came natural, so I just rolled with it. The more and more stuff that I did, and the bigger that I thought I got, the more and more my conscience was being numbed by all the materialistic things.
I came to find out that they didn't even go talk to this guy. They didn't even go to his house. They didn't go and investigate. They didn't go and check it out. They didn't, nothing. Like, it was, the ball was dropped right there as they walked out of my house and did absolutely nothing for any of us. And I felt in that moment that nobody else was going to protect me.
Once our power is taken away, we'll take it back however we can. Power becomes a tool or a weapon.
All athletes have the ability for their emotions and everything to go so high with their ability as an athlete. And to try to please people and try to be the hero, the winning guy, and you start looking for that in other areas. And again, my transition was with drugs. I got introduced to drugs when I was in college and found out that it can almost have the same euphoria that being an athlete has. Because you just control things. You control people, you control lives, you control families, control territories, you control turfs. It's all kind of ways you can go with it. When I got introduced to drugs, I ran to a guy out of Miami. I was, again, living in Georgia. And he had seen me play, seen our team play, knew that I was injured and I wasn't playing anymore. And he asked me did I want to try something else, and gave me like 4 ounces of cocaine and told me to get back to him whenever. And I just found out within a week of having it what type of power this little white powder had, because it got you indoors, you couldn't get in. It just, people just, when they seen you coming, they almost would bow down like they do, you know, when you play ball. For me to have a constant flow doesn't make a difference how much or what time of day or night. It was like I was just led into the Brinks truck, you know, I was led into being able to print my own money almost, you know. I found that power that you have by having something that everybody else wants. I could get tables at restaurants you couldn't get. I could get in the clubs that had a line, a block long. So many different things that I could do just because of what I was involved in, which was the drug trafficking.
This is when power gets dangerous. Because once you're using it against people, power actually becomes a lie. Number 2, examine the false power in your life. Looking back, many of the times we felt powerful, we were actually at our weakest. To move forward, we need to examine the ways we used to define power. Power is not money.
I made so much money. I just always had money. I would have gift cards, Visa gift cards, Walmart gift cards, other people's credit cards I was using, and that money gave me a false sense of power. I was the one my friends would call. You know, I was the one who would take care of problems and make everything all better. And that felt good to me. I felt like, okay, I might be in this different state and not have anything going in my life, but these people who have been here and they live with their parents, they're coming to me to help them with their problems. And of course, looking back, everyone was using me because I would just, you know, I was trying to buy friendship or validation or whatever it was, but I used that money, and I used my, you know, I was proud that I was good at doing fraud. I was proud of the way I could manipulate people and they would never suspect me. So it was very sick looking back, and I'm not proud of it, but then I think it was just my attempt at creating some control or some power in a situation where I had none.
Power is not manipulation.
I thought it was powerful to be able to go into a dope house and have $20 but walk out with $200 worth of crack. That was powerful. It was powerful to be able to use my body and bat my eyes to manipulate someone to give me what they had that I wanted. I thought that was powerful. or to be able to manipulate them out of their life savings, and now they've lost their home, their job, their cars, everything that they worked so hard for. And you were a part of stripping them of everything that they have. Back then, that was power.
Power is not a drug.
And he asked me did I want to try something else, and gave me like 4 ounces of cocaine, and told me just get back to him whenever. And I just found out within a week of having it what type of power this little white powder had, because it got you indoors, you couldn't get in. It just, people just, when they seen you coming, they almost would bow down like they do, you know, when you play ball. For me to have a constant flow doesn't make a difference how much or what time of day or night. It was like I was just led into the Brinks truck, you know, I was led into being able to print my own money almost, you know. I found that power that you have by having something that everybody else wants. I could get tables at restaurants you couldn't get. I could get in the clubs that had a line, a block long. So many different things that I could do just because of what I was involved in, which was the drug trafficking.
Power is not a tough guy.
I was getting jumped quite frequently, and that caused enough problems for me to want to call up people from my old crew to come and deal with these characters. And you know, a couple of times, or one time, it was single jumping that solved it, and the other 2 times that I called upon him, he actually pulled a gun on the individual and told him to stay away, otherwise I will kill you. Which, it was cool to hear at the time. You know, I mean, when I later on, when I heard what had happened, it was cool to me. It was, you know, to know that I hold that kind of weight or power, or have that good of friends in the city side that still would do that with me. It was cool to know that.
Number 3, keep digging. Right now, some of us are thinking, but I really was powerful. It wasn't a lie. Keep digging. Some truths are buried deep, deep down. And here's the truth. If our power had been real, wouldn't we still have it?
So much of that happened that it spiraled me into addiction itself, starting to use the drugs. And when that happened, then the bottom fell out. I was super scandalous. There's not too many things I wouldn't do to keep my money going or keep my life that I supposed thought was the life going. And that means pistols and robberies and all the kind of things. And during that, my daughter was still with me. And so that transition was, it was one that depressed you, because we've been put out of a few places. I went to jail while it was just me and her. So 2, 3, 4 days she's there by herself. It was just some crazy living, number 1. Number 2, not really knowing how can I get out of this.
I said, fine, I have no kids. Well, I'm gonna go live in Uptown. I've always wanted to go live in Uptown. I can party as much as I want, do as many calls as I want, do as many drugs as I want, have a hangover if I want, and I won't have any kids waking me up, you know, in the morning. I can just sleep all day if I want. And I did that. And I just did as much as I wanted, when I wanted, how I wanted. And that's when I really felt the emptiest. And that's when I came to the end of myself, I guess.
Number 4, surrender. Believe it or not, the path to true power begins with letting go.
I finally came to a point where I got on my knees and I asked God to take my life because I hated my life. And I asked him to give me something different. And yeah, I wanted my integrity back. I wanted, I don't know, I just wanted love back in my life. I had no love in my life for many years. And I didn't know how to love. There was nothing left in me to give at that point. I was literally all used up.
A great place to start is to ask for help.
I don't know where I heard it, but it's a short story about a guy in his front yard who sees some people ride by on a bike and they're like, hey, you got to get out of here, a flood is coming. You know, and the guy in his front yard's like, God's going to take care of me. You know, and next thing you know is he sees cars driving by and these people are yelling at him, hey, come on, you got to get out of here, a flood is coming. It's like, nope, God's going to take care of me. And next thing you know, the water's rising, people are going by in boats and they're like, come with us, a flood is coming. He's like, nope, God's gonna rescue me, he's gonna take care of me. And you know, next thing you know, he's on the tip of his roof, barely has his head above water, and you know, his helicopter flies overhead and they're trying to rescue him. He's like, no, God's gonna rescue me, I trust God, he's gonna take care of me. And he ends up drowning and finds himself before God in heaven. He's like, God, why didn't you save me? He goes, I tried, I sent all these people to you and you didn't listen.
When you ask for help when you need it, you will achieve a level of independence and autonomy that you could never dream of. I mean, now I own my own home. I work full time. I pay my taxes. I go to school. I don't need help a lot of the time. But I only got there because I asked for help when I needed it. I got out of prison. I went to my cousin's house. I stayed there for a few months. I asked my parole officer for help in finding an apartment who would rent to me as a felon. I asked support groups for help. I went to a prostitution support group at Breaking Free and said, help, I need help working through these issues. I got a therapist as soon as I got out of prison. I got a case manager who helped me get health insurance. So it was all these things where I just said, you know what, I'm gonna try it a different way. Instead of trying to do everything myself and, you know, act like I've got it all under control, I'm gonna listen to what they told me in prison, I'm gonna ask for help. And that has allowed me to become the independent person I am today. I never would have got there in my little bubble and my little wall up closing the world off. I think it's only through interdependence that you can find independence. And now I'm in a position to help other people, it's an amazing gift. It's amazing.
Number 5, reclaim your power. Realize you are loved.
I look back then to see my life, and I look now, and it's 2 Corinthians 5:17, you know, all the way. I'm a new creation. The old is gone and the new has come. So now I now go to speak to colleges, high schools, try to encourage those people that have been in my path, if you will. Try to encourage them, you know, that there is a new life and that there is hope and that there is a much better way of living than that chaotic life with drugs and alcohol.
Rewrite your story.
Since I've been out of prison, I'm very involved in public speaking, and I share the most intimate details of my life with a wide variety of audiences, and that can be scary, but it feels powerful because I'm taking that adversity, I'm taking all the pain and all the times I was powerless, and I'm using them to do something positive in the world. And I think that's the best thing I can do with my past. That's the best way to use it.
We can start again. We can reclaim our strength. We can redefine power.